Hello and thanks for joining us. From the superstar superhero force of Justice League to Joaquin Phoenix's stellar performance in You Were Never Really Here. Welcome to today's film show.
Divided, we are not enough.
Cleary said you were brutal.
I can be.
Au paradis, la vie n'est pas comme ça.
And I'm joined in the studio by our film critic, Emma Jones. Hello, Emma.
Hello.
Now, we're going to start with what's being billed as the superhero film of the year. Justice League premiered in Los Angeles this week, based on the DC Comics book of the same name. It's directed by Zack Snyder and has an all-star cast. Justice League picks up where the last movie, Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, left off. But Emma, that was a critical flop, wasn't it?
Oh, yes. Batman v Superman, that was one of the most boring, self-absorbed superhero films I have ever sat through. However, in fairness, Marvel's Thor: The Dark World was not far behind. So really, it's not just DC Comics that had the monopoly on pale Dark Knight imitations, really. Batman v Superman seemed really flat-footed next to the group dynamic and the snappy dialogue of Marvel's Avengers, rather. And I think what's happened is the Justice League also brings a gang together into the dynamic. So you have Batman, played by Ben Affleck, returning, and he's joined this time by Wonder Woman, Aquaman and The Flash. And it's no secret to say that Superman was killed off at the end of the last film, but it's also no secret to say that Henry Cavill returns in some form in this movie too. And what happens is Batman assembles the League together in order to face far greater enemies than last time.
So is this film better than the last one?
Well, it's funnier, and it is actually better. And I think we've spoken before how superhero filmmakers are finally grasping that unless you have the genius of Christopher Nolan, it's probably better to stay away from dark drama, to be honest with you, because they just can't pull it off. Ezra Miller is very, very good in this film as the Flash, very quick-witted. Jason Momoa, oh, how I've missed him since the first series of Game of Thrones. He's surprisingly good as Aquaman, but it's actually Wonder Woman that steals the film again, just like she's stolen the box office this summer. Gal Gadot is really, really fantastic, and these performances do make the film. And of course, we have Ben Affleck as the bland but very agreeable Batman holding the entire film together. So let's have a look at the film.
How many of you are there?
Not enough.
8 people abducted from or near Star Labs. Here's the potential perp.
Parademons.
Okay.
The demons must have got the scent of the mother box. They carried people away to find out what they know.
So the 8 may still be alive.
9.
Oh.
The head of Star Labs was taken as well.
You made it.
Now, I'm not saying this is a great film. It's just better than the last one, really. And it's made by the performances. You probably saw J.K. Simmons in there as well into the mix. It's not the direction by Zack Snyder at all. It's very much a bog-standard superhero film in many ways.
Okay. That's not persuaded me to go to the cinema and see it.
I'm sorry.
Well, next to a film that I like very much. It's called You Were Never Really Here, or A Beautiful Day in French. And this is a very close collaboration between Joaquin Phoenix and the Scottish director Lynn Ramsay. Tell us more.
Yes, this really is a one-man showcase for Joaquin Phoenix, I think, thanks to Lynn Ramsay. And she wrote it specifically for him. In fact, I'm told she kept a photo of him on her desk while she was writing the character of Joe, who is an emotionally bruised hitman in this film. Now, of course, we all know that Joaquin Phoenix, he's an incredible actor anyway, but there's something about the dynamic and the relationship between him and Lynn Ramsay that really makes him outstanding in this film. And I think it's really interesting. Lynn Ramsay actually told me that on their first day of filming, she saw him sitting in a pool by himself at night. She thought, oh, I'm going to have to get into the pool. And I don't know if that moment achieved something, but they've become really fast friends. They really seem to trust each other. And I think this is partly responsible for the performance he gives in the film. So I actually spoke to Joaquin Phoenix about this role, and let's take a look.
She wanted to oftentimes have the experience of the character to really understand what I was experiencing. Sometimes you have the issue as an actor with maybe the blocking or dialogue or what prop you're using. And she would come over and she would take the hammer or take the gun or get into the pool with me or whatever it was to feel what it was like that I was feeling. Airport.
Now, the film competed for the big prize, the Palme d'Or at Cannes this year, and it was very well received, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's an excellent film, and I think that's because really the film is more concerned with the man and the hit, basically. It's the character portrayal, I think you might agree, of Joe that really sticks in people's minds if you see the film. He's an emotional wreck, basically. He's an ex-soldier, he's a hitsman who still lives with his mum, incongruously enough. And it's hardly a Hollywood portrayal of an assassin who breathes from job to job, with no emotional impact. You see the entire film through Joe's very muddled gaze. He can't move on from the childhood abuse that he suffered at the hands of his father. And I really like the fact that when you're talking about Lynn Ramsey, no matter what films she makes, we need to talk about Kevin, Ratcatcher, Morven Keller. She always seems to go for life's untouchables and really bring them to life. The only downside is she only makes a film about every 7 years, really.
Well, next to our French pick of the week, it's called Diane a les épaules, or Diane has the right shape, which is quite a strange translation of the title. It's written and directed by Fabienne Gourjard and stars Clotilde M. Tell us some more.
Yes, she was the winner of the 2010 César Award for Most Promising Newcomer, and she was also on our screens constantly when she starred in The Returned recently. I'm not quite sure she's lived up to that accolade of the César Award in terms of her profile, but this film is all about her and her role as Diane, who's a very carefree woman, quite free-spirited, can't hold a relationship down. And anyway, she unhesitatingly agrees to get pregnant for her two gay best friends. She moves to the country to get bigger in private, and there she meets a local handyman, falls in love. He's played by Fabrizio Rongioni, who you may have seen in 2 Days and One Night, but also he was in Un Village Française, the long-running TV series. Clotilde was actually pregnant in 2016, so I'm not sure if the baby bump you see in the shots is actually hers or if it's extremely good CGI. Anyway, let's take a look.
Je veux juste savoir pourquoi tu commences une histoire pile maintenant avec un mec qu'on connaissait ni d'Ève ni d'Adam il y a encore 3 mois et qu'on verra plus dans 2.
Mais qu'est-ce que t'en sais?
T'as jamais gardé un mec plus de 15 jours dans ta vie. Tu t'exclus, s'il te plaît? Arrête, toi, tu penses la même chose. Et Jackie Chan, il en pense quoi de ta grossesse?
Bah, il accepte, parce qu'il est là.
Tu lui as dit pour tes seins, parce que va lui faire un choc quand il va apprendre qu'en fait, t'en as pas.
Now, the film essentially gets better and better as it goes along. It's a bit of a cliche, of course, that she's in the countryside and she falls in love with a local, and it explores the fact how he feels that she's getting bigger every day with a baby that's not his. But really, what's interesting about the film is you're assessing the emotional impact of a woman who might not have considered her actions of giving a baby up at the end of 9 months, as well as falling in love. And that's why the film vastly improves as it goes along. The last half hour is an extremely interesting character study.
OK. Well, next to the beautiful film Wonderstruck. Now, so many of Todd Haynes' films have been critical successes. How does this one compare?
Yeah, if you think of the films he's made, such as Velvet Goldmine, most recently Carol, I'm Not There, you expect big things off Todd Haynes. And this is the thing, it's definitely a quality film. And it deals with 2 children who are divided by 50 years. One is set in the 1920s, one in the 1970s. Both run away to New York, and they do have a special connection despite the half-century separating them.
Well, it does look nice, that's for sure, but I didn't feel personally that it was as good as the rest of his back catalogue. What do you think?
Yeah, it's got quality performances, particularly Millicent Simmons. Now, she's the girl who plays Rose, which is the 1920s part of the film. It's also got great performances from Michelle Williams and Julianne Moore. I think what's really arresting for me was the 1920s sequences were shot in black and white in the form of a silent film, and that's quite poignant because the talkies were coming in and silent movies were the only kind of place where Rose, a deaf child, felt at home. He's also very concerned with bringing 1970s New York to life. I think he blew his budget on that. What is lacking for me, though, is the oomph factor, and I quite agree with you, really, there. Particularly for some of his filmmaking, including Carol. I'm not sure, though, Wonderstruck is a lovely film. It was really being touted for award season. Then it premiered at Cannes, and all of a sudden all the chats dropped off, really. And I think that was because it lacks any kind of edge.
OK. Emma Jones, thank you so much. And we're going to leave you with the beautiful images from Todd Haynes' Wonderstruck. Remember our website. We're also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.